Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking time out to attend this webinar. My name is Geraldine Mugunya. I'm a risk analyst at NITA Uganda. And I just want to welcome you to this first webinar, which will be on building blocks for an effective cyber resilience organizational framework. This is part of the series of cybersecurity webinars that is organized by the Uganda National Computer Emergency Response Team and Coordination Center. It's part of their initiatives to share the best practices on relevant issues in cybersecurity. Before I invite our moderator for this session, I just want to inform the participants just a few rules of engagement. For when the session progresses, please use the Q&A option. It's below your screen to send in your questions. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our moderator, Michael Ochero, who is the Assistant Commissioner E-Services at the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. Michael is an experienced information technology management specialist with a track record of policy development, administration, management, and providing high-value technical solutions in the information technology sector. He's also responsible for the development of the ICT policy frameworks at the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. He has a master's degree in IT, postgraduate qualifications in M&E, cybersecurity qualifications from USTTI, and industrial certifications with IBM and Philips Technology Solutions. He's previously responsible for the deployment of IT solutions in Uganda, Kenya, and Rwanda, and he has lectured technical students at UICT. So I would warmly like to welcome you, Michael, and I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Geraldine, and thank you to our discussant today, our presenter. Thank you for joining us. I thank you, the participants, for being present. And I would straight away like to introduce our discussant here, our presenter, that is Diana Agaba, who is a cybersecurity and cyber resilience enthusiast with 12 years plus of experience. She holds an MSc in Management and Information Systems and is certified as a certified information security manager and certified information systems security professional. And she has recently completed several courses on the cyber leadership program. And Diana is also a member of various information security professional bodies. And she is also a board member with Women in Cybersecurity. So Diana, you're welcome. And I know our time is short, so I would like to straight away hand over to you. We will have your presentation, after which we will receive the questions. Participants, you can simply type in your questions as Diana presents, and she'll respond after the presentation. Diana, over to you.
All right, thank you, Michael. Just confirm that I am audible.
You're loud and clear.
All right, let me quickly share my screen. And you also let me know that you are able to see my screen. Okay, Michael, can you see my screen?
Yeah, your screen is visible. If you could only put it in the view presentation mode view. All right, that's
fine.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you, Michael. Good afternoon, everyone on call. Thank you, NITA, for this opportunity for me to share some insight or knowledge around cyber resilience and critical building blocks for any organization in terms of becoming cyber resilient. And Michael has done justice in terms of introducing me. I have over 12 years of experience in IT management and IT security, and I've gotten an opportunity to practice cybersecurity for the last 7 years, where I've participated in implementing cybersecurity programs for large organizations, mainly in the financial service sector. I will be drawing a lot of the sharing today from my recent engagement at the Cyber Leadership Institute in Australia, where the gist of the matter was around cyber resilience and why we currently talk of cyber resilience and not just cyber security. So in terms of the flow, and like we said, we have quite a limited time, but I hope that I will be able to run through this short presentation by defining or being able to help us differentiate what cyber resilience and cyber security is, looking at the building blocks of cyber resilience that will help organizations make the right choice when they come in terms of formulating their own cyber resilience or cyber security framework. And then I'll share a generic framework at the end of the presentation, and we'll look at any takeaways for us. When I was looking at how do I really differentiate these two aspects that, you know, are closely interlinked and yet different, I thought I would use the analogy of soccer, because I know most of us are soccer lovers and we support different teams. And within the picture, we can look at, we see Manchester City. One of the things that Manchester City is known for is their defense. It's what has made it as a team, a dominant force in the Premier League. And what does it mean to be a defensive team? It says that as they approach that football pitch, they're ensuring that they have a solid defense towards their goal. And their target is to ensure that they are not conceding any goals at all. But we know that Manchester has not won all their games without conceding anything. And that speaks to what cybersecurity is really. It's us looking at protecting our assets or our organizations from cyber attacks. And building those layers and layers of defense, be it at perimeter, which has been eroded recently by remote working and the pandemic. But it's all about having a defense in-depth model when it comes to cybersecurity. Flipping it to cyber resilience, we are in times where you can't stand as an organization and, you know, say, I am 100% sure that I will not have an attack. So cyber resilience comes to help us have a mindset shift from not if it will happen, but when it will happen, how will I react, how will I respond? And I want to use the recent example of Barcelona. They made history by losing a football match after conceding 3 penalties. And what was the takeaway from there is the fact that they come to the pitch with the mindset that, yes, it is possible I'll concede a goal, but do I lose sight of the end goal? At the end of it all, it's, have I left the pitch a winner? Have I won? And that's what cyber resilience is about, to say that even if you've gotten, if an attack has happened in your organization, how fast are you able to recover and correct yourself and say, oh, I've conceded a goal, but I need to win. I have 90 minutes in which I have to win. And by the 90 minutes mark, I will have won as an organization. I will have recovered. I will have restored my services. So if there's anything you take away from our discussion as we start is how do I differentiate cybersecurity from cyber resilience, and why are we in recent times focusing on cyber resilience? Then we go into the question of why. Maybe 2-3 years ago, cybersecurity was enough, and having all those defenses in place would give you a level of comfort that you are secure. We have seen a tremendous growth in the threat landscape. Landscape report by Deloitte, and here it was focusing on ransomware and how it has evolved. The fact that we have over 40,000 ransomware attacks happening on a daily, but also that 80% of companies that have paid ransom still experience another attack. You would imagine that once you have experienced an attack, then you go back and strengthen your defenses, and those defenses now give you surety that you will not have another attack. But the fact that you still get an attack even after, you know, that experience and implementing the lessons learned goes a long way to tell that, are you ready? Or do you know that you're ready to respond to cyber attacks and ensure that they do not happen again? Again, looking at how many days it takes organizations to, you know, identify that a breach has happened or is happening. 191 days is quite a long time. And cyber resilience comes in to say, if you know you're ready, you'll be able to put in place mechanisms to give you that visibility, to bring down the mean time to detect to lower than 190 days. But also the evolving of, before we look at ransomware and, you know, someone will encrypt your data and move on, but now they encrypt, they first exfiltrate your data and do the encryption. So even when you've paid the ransom, you're still at odds to say, okay, how much of my data will they use it against me the next time? Will they, you know, things like that. So that the landscape has evolved so much that we can no longer just look at the technical defenses we have in place in terms of cybersecurity to secure us as an organization. And we can go into what the financials are in terms of the projections of what ransomware will continue to cost and the different impacts that we see thereafter. But this is all to paint a picture that we need cyber resilience and we need it yesterday. So this calls for us to really have a mindset shift from thinking cybersecurity into thinking cyber resilience. And quickly here I put more of the traditional way we have looked at cybersecurity. It's highly technical. It's only us, the security expert, that needs to know. The rest of the business is not concerned. If we are secure, we are good to go. That has to change. Also looking at cyber as a cost of doing business. The reactiveness in which we respond to cyber incidents. Because when you are ready and you know that this is going to happen, you will not be reactive, but rather proactive. And this is the mindset that we need to shift from and create a cyber resilient mindset where we are able to think that how will I continue should I have a cyber attack on my hands? How do we look at cybersecurity as a strategic discipline that every business and technology leader must understand and is able to articulate to the next person on them? And also looking at cybersecurity as an enabler of doing business. We know a lot of organizations did a shift into digital. There was an accelerated digital transformation with the pandemic, but that calls for you to ensure that whatever you are putting on the digital platform is secure and will not cost you more than you use to set them up. And also the call of anticipating, the mindset of not if, but when. Because if you know that it's going to happen, then you are always going to be prepared and manage all the stakeholders and ensure that you trickle this down to everyone in the organization. Cyber resilience is more of a culture, building a cybersecurity culture in organization where everyone appreciates their responsibility within the journey. So then how do we come up with a simple framework that helps us really understand what cyber resilience is? I'll dwell on two definitions and then I'll summarize into what the Cyber Leadership Institute created as a simple framework to enable people understand what cyber resilience is. From the World Economic Forum, it defines cyber resilience as an additional dimension of cyber risk management, where organizations develop and execute a long-term strategy to withstand cyber events. But a simpler or more relatable definition is from the IT Governance UK, where we look at cyber resilience as the ability to prepare for, respond to, and recover from cyber attacks. So looking at these two definitions, then we have a simple framework that really tells an organization on how to look at cyber resilience. One is from the aspect of being ready. And that is where actually cybersecurity and cyber resilience meet each other. With cybersecurity, always trying to be ready by putting defenses in place, by putting recovery strategies in place, and being ready to respond. We've seen companies, subscribe to incident response vendors that will come in a minute's time to help them respond should a cyber incident occur. But beyond being ready, there's a critical call that cyber resilience puts in place, which is knowing that you are ready. Because if you went and asked any organization to say, do you have cybersecurity controls in place? They'll say yes. So are you sure you can, mitigate any? They'll say, yeah. No one can go beyond my perimeter firewall. I have endpoint detection and response in place. I have an antivirus. I have web filtering here and there. But if you ask them, okay, if an incident happened right now, how would you go about containing it and making sure that impact is not big? You find that no one nearly knows where to start from. And that speaks to knowing that you're already having structures in place that enable you to say, an incident has happened. This is how I construct the crisis team, and this is how we respond to the cyber incident. So the other aspect of resilience is knowing you're ready by, measuring your defense capability, by testing how quickly you can recover through incident response planning and testing, by having a clear understanding of the risks that you are exposed to and how to manage them. But over and above all, being able to anticipate change, because the cyber space really changes in a flash. So with those three aspects, knowing that being ready and knowing that you're ready, then that will build what every organization wants to have in place, stakeholder confidence and trust. And that will trickle down to having stronger buy-in from senior management that will enable you to have to set up a strong cyber resilient organization. So with this simple framework of the three aspects of being ready, know that you're ready, and stakeholder confidence and management, will then go into what building blocks can we use under these three umbrellas to create a cyber resilient framework for an organization. So as we start looking at how to build a cyber resilient organization and what building blocks we have, I'll use the example of Lego. And I know most of us who have kids have bought these building blocks for our kids to use the picture they see on the box to replicate and reproduce the final product. And that's what cyber resilience is calling for. Starting with a big picture in mind, and then throwing all the different pieces on the table and starting building upon each control and component that you need within your framework to ensure that at the end of the day, you're a resilient organization. So using that analogy of the Lego, we then look at the different building blocks within that three arms of cyber resilience. Being ready calls for us to have the situational awareness and understanding of our environment, what business we are in, what technology, what exposure we have. And then also checking ourselves and ensuring we have strong defenses, robust detection tools, rapid response, And on top of that, effective recovery and strategies. And in the aspect of knowing that you're ready, I said this is all about visibility, measurement, and being able to adopt. Finally, the arm of stakeholder trust calls for us to have strong and robust governance in place, have that transparency where we're able to tell all stakeholders the full picture of what we know and what we do not know, so that at any one point we are in sync. And it starts with awareness, because sometimes stakeholders will give you all the budget you need to set up cyber controls, and they think that's enough. So when you have a cyber incident on your plate, they're like, how did you let it happen? But if they have the appreciation that this is something that will definitely happen, but this is how you're structuring yourself to respond, it makes the conversation and the engagement quite easy. So to really look at each building block quickly and the things that you need to have in consideration. Like I said, situational awareness is about having that understanding of your business, the information that you hold, what your technology footprint is, and the overall attack surface that you are exposed to. That will help you prioritize the type of defenses that you're putting in place. And this should cut across all the different attack surfaces, from people, processes, and technology. And we know that cybersecurity has been more on the technical, having technical controls in place. But when you start looking at cyber resilience and making it an organizational matter, it calls for a cyber culture, and people are critical within that journey. Your best defense is a staff who is cyber aware. Then looking at robust detection and rapid response. Currently, monitoring and alerting is no longer enough, but there's need to have a 24/7 detection and response capability that then cuts down on the mean time to detect and respond. And finally, having robust capabilities in terms of recovery plans, backup. You have to have secondary, tertiary, and even fourth back. If you can have as many backups of your data as possible, that is the way to go. And how do you get the assurance that you are ready, or you are ready with all these building blocks? Is through testing. So being ready calls for you to actually test these capabilities that then inform you that you are ready, and you know that you're ready. From the aspect of knowing that you're ready, it calls for clarity on the risk profile. What do I know? And like I said, as you communicate with stakeholders to create that trust, be able to communicate what you know and what you don't know, and then be able to tell them that what I don't know, this is what I'm going to do about it to find out. Ensuring that you have created enough visibility that everyone understands where you are at as an organization is also critical. And this calls for us to be able to communicate in the same language as business, key performance indicators, what are the returns on investment for the heavy investment they're doing on cyber, but also having clear relatability of cyber risk within the risk framework, and having clear key risk indicators that communicates the state of your maturity is also critical. Finally, adapting to change means that unlike where we see organizations having 5-10-year strategic plans, because of the pace at which things change within the cyberspace, you might opt to have more of short-term roadmaps, 2-3 years, but even within that time, as the environment evolves, you should be able to quickly adapt. And this calls for more of an agile approach to implementing your cyber resilience strategy. Finally, in terms of building stakeholder trust, ensuring that there's you have an open pipe for two-way communication. You're communicating in the language that they understand, but over and above, ensuring that your resilience strategy is aligned to the business will give you a lot of buy-in and will make the journey smoother. But over and above all, as you build a framework or a strategy for cyber resilience, governance is critical. Ensuring that you have clear roles and responsibilities and you have a lean and effective governance in place will be critical to ensuring that you are a cyber resilient organization. So with all this as building blocks for cyber resilience, then the big question comes on, how do I now have a framework in place that helps me to journey on and building a cyber resilient organization? And there are many, frameworks out there, and many are continuing to be developed. But the question that we have to ask ourselves, why do we need a framework in the first place? What purpose does it serve in an organization? And a couple of reasons why we do organizations seek to have a framework in place is, one, it helps you to align with industry best practice. At times, it's a regulatory expectation. If, say, Bank of Uganda has come up with a framework. I know NITA has an information security policy that you'll find maybe aligns itself to ISO or to NIST. Then as an organization that is regulated, you might be inclined to customize along those lines. Also, auditors expect us to be following a certain framework that helps them, to then assess us along those lines. But over and above that, the critical aspect of a framework is really, it helps you to measure yourself, to check your capability and maturity and be able to improve from current state to the target state that you desire. But over and above that, also help you communicate with the different stakeholders with clarity. So with that, we know that there's a number of frameworks that are out there, and the question is, which one is best fit for my organization, or how do I choose? And the best thing, like I said, is starting from the building blocks of cyber resilience, and you'll find that not one framework will give you all those different blocks that we looked at. Being ready, knowing that you're ready, and having that stakeholder trust. So you find most organizations will look at the different frameworks that exist and then come up with a framework that fits their organization as a whole. And in this presentation, I thought I would share one of the generic or common frameworks that we have seen adopted by many organizations, and that is the NIST Cybersecurity Framework that has 5 functions that it stands on, which is identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. But looking at that framework and from where I've been talking about the 3 arms of cyber resilience, that only really covers you in details when it comes to the aspect of being ready. So how then do you build on the other components of knowing that you're ready and a stakeholder trust? In this example, I used the financial service cybersecurity profile that got the NIST framework and added 2 components of governance and the supply chain or defense management. And this starts tying in the other aspects of cyber resilience that ideally maybe NIST wouldn't have covered in full. So with that, then you start as an organization building your own framework that ensures that you are covering, like we said, all the aspects of the attack surface, people, processes, and technology. So as an example here, if you're highly regulated, you have to take into consideration regulatory requirements as you build your framework. But also in terms of testing and your compliance and giving the stakeholders assurance, you need to have those also considered within your framework. But above it all, having a strong cybersecurity strategy that is aligned with the business goals will make the journey easier in terms of stakeholder buy-in and trust. So this is a simple framework that is trying to cover all the aspects of knowing that you're ready in terms of operations, what we see under the NIST framework, and then bringing other different building blocks to ensure that you cover the entire ecosystem within cyber resilience. So with that, I know I was wrapping, but I'm hoping to leave an ample time for question is what are our takeaways or next step for someone on the call and saying, okay, I leave this call, where do I start from as an organization that has maybe overly been focusing on cyber security, but you may need to bring the cyber resilience aspect into the picture. One appreciation is that being ready and knowing that you're ready will result in stakeholder trust and buy-in, and that should make your budgetary requirements an easier conversation to have and the support. The other aspect is from the changing the mindset that security is for us, the techies, to having stakeholders and overall everyone in the organization having that appreciation. Then you know that organizational culture is critical in building a resilient organization. Finally, start with the big picture in mind, have the target, and then have an agile approach to getting to that target state. So if you're leaving this call and say, where do I start? One, you might have a framework in place, but it's not serving the purpose, or you do not have one. Then go and have that drafted within the next weeks. Enlist stakeholder input. You have risk, you have compliance teams. Those tend to be critical stakeholders when it comes to cyber resilience. Then define your target state, and using the framework, assess yourself and identify the gaps that there are in your current state. From there, then you go into really starting to build a roadmap and prioritizing what needs to be protected and what the quick wins should be. Much as we're talking cyber resilience, it is critical that you start with the basics as you build yourself as an organization towards a cyber resilient organization. And then finally, you can have a clear roadmap in terms of executing to get you to the state that you desire, but above all, measure, remeasure, and continue to measure so that you have you're able to gauge your capability and maturity and where the improvements that you need to put in place are. Thank you so much. I will hand over back to Michael for any questions in that brief discussion.
Yeah. Thank you, Dana. Yes, I personally have received tips on cybersecurity, as well as a few on football. So I thank you for that. And the questions that we have, I can see two questions there. The first one reads, how best would we really convince stakeholders to invest in building cyber resilience? Because most of them at times don't feel there's a need, not until they physically witness an attack, and also don't want to invest a lot, but expect a lot of return on investment. If you could answer that, and then we could move to the next one.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Michael. And it's an interesting question, especially when you talk about investment after the fact. We have also seen a challenge where us as cyber experts are hired in the moment when things are hot, and that's when they think, oh, we need a security expert on board. They bring you, before you learn the environment or anything, you're in the hot soup and trying to solve things that, you know, you do not have clarity on. So the best way to tackle that is, again, like I said, as you engage with stakeholders, are you speaking the same language? If you can't quantify the need from your own experience, there's lots and lots of examples. Example, if you're both banks and you know that recently a bank had an incident and it costed them this much, you can be able to use that example to create that relatability. And with that simple communication of, if it happened to them, it can definitely happen to us. And we don't need to wait for it to happen, but rather to start preparing. So it's about having as much information as possible at your fingertips, and also creating those realistic scenarios that you're able to demonstrate through others' experiences and examples. And like I said, we have found it a tough one when it comes to getting stakeholder buy-in, but you have to gradually build that relationship and not wait at the tail end to say, you see, I told you, and now the incident has happened. How do you keep those communications line open? How do you create simulations and, you know, show them what can through simulations? Because this is not a realistic, this has not happened in real life, but through a simulation, their eyes will open and they'll be like, oh my goodness, what do you need for you to solve this? So engaging them in whatever case, using examples, using simulations will help you get that buy-in, though it's a journey, like you said.
Okay, next question. What's the place for ethical hackers in this framework? Is the expertise necessary or needed?
Yeah, definitely. We talked about measuring and as a critical component within the building blocks. And what and ethical hackers, one of the things they do when you talk of penetration testing, it's one of an assurance arm of cyber resilience, giving confidence that you are ready. You should be able to stress test yourself and prove that, you know what, I did a pen test and here is the evidence that if someone did it externally, we are solid and we should be able to overcome. So in terms of creating that assurance or having a strong assurance program that helps you measure and demonstrate that you're ready is critical. So definitely ethical hackers do have a big role to play. Like any other, you know, security specialist, be security awareness specialist. We said people are our first line of defense. So yeah, they do have a place in the whole.
Okay, then the next one is a comment, a compliment. Thank you so much on readiness from Edward. Okay, Edward. Then we have Stephen. Is it currently possible to have insurance companies give a cover package to help with the recovery process if a company has been a victim of ransomware attack?
Yes, cyber insurance is one of the things that are picking up. Of course, insurance companies were hesitant in terms of insuring cyber. And you'll find that, again, for you to be able to get a good premium on cyber insurance, you need to be ready. You need to have, you know, the robust defense mechanisms in place. As you pre-qualify, those are the questions that they will ask, because that impacts on the premium that you are going to pay. Example, if you have a managed detection and response capability in place, that brings the premium quite on the lower side. So yes, cyber insurance is one of those tools that organizations are using to respond to cyber threats such as insurance. But if you looked at my first slide around why cyber resilience, there was also a caveat that 42% of companies with cyber insurance did not have all the losses covered by insurance. Because then insurance comes in to check that, oh, you told me you have these capabilities, were they fully on or not? And that will, determine how much of coverage they will give you. But yes, cyber insurance is one of those controls that any organization that is looking at cyber resilience should have in place.
Okay, then the next one from Edward. Yeah, he states our organizations are reluctant on budgeting for cybersecurity. I guess this is NITA. Put more webinars like these to help the private sector. Yes, I guess that's one of the roles of government, of NITA-U, of the Ministry of ICT, to create awareness. As Dan had stated here, the user is key, and the user being well informed is one of the protective measures. So definitely we will provide more webinars. The next question by John: which frameworks or guidance would you recommend for small and medium enterprises? Budget is an issue. Over to you, Diana, for that one.
Thank you, Mike. And I know the issue of budget normally comes up, but in terms of framework, again, it is not you being small as an organization. I'll give an example of a fintech and a bank. We have seen fintechs, expose banks to, such magnitude that you do not want to even think about. And yet they will say, we are a small organization and hence we can't afford this. It goes to what type of assets, small as you are, do you deal in? For example, with the current Personal Data Privacy Act, if you hold personal identifiable information, then you have to start thinking beyond just being small, but on how best can you protect that information and what framework would enable you to do that. But in terms of simplicity, one of the simple frameworks that I know that is more around the basics, having controls in place is the CIS 18 controls, the Center of Internet Security Framework. That is a good baseline to start on. And I'll just say it's a good framework to start on, but you still need to build on it and evolve it if your end goal is not just cybersecurity, but cyber resilience.
Okay, we have another one from Arthur. I can see you have several more questions, so your audience has been very alert. So Arthur, it's a long one. It's from Makere. So they're doing a kickstart of cybersecurity. There's no department as yet responsible. How can we make management buy into ensuring this is fast-tracked? That is the first question. What are some of the recommended cybersecurity certifications? He has done some ethical hacking and phishing to see how ready we are, but this is only implemented to a selected group. How best can that be applied to higher management? All right, over to you, Dana.
Okay, one of the examples I have around, working up senior management is doing more of a fingerprinting on their presence on the internet. For example, get an organization that will comb the internet, including the dark web, and give you all the information that is held on that senior management. But you have to be careful that that is delivered in the privacy of their comfort. And they will have that aha moment of, oh, this is how much I'm exposing the organization as me, before they even look at how is the organization exposed. And that starts, creating a softer landing ground because they have an appreciation of the impact of cybersecurity to them as individuals. But that said, how do you kickstart the journey I mean, we have had universities that have been hacked and, data manipulated. You can look out for those case studies to demonstrate the importance of cybersecurity, but also being an organization that is into, training the next generation of professionals that are coming out. The gap, skill gap, the shortage of skilled people in cyber is quite alarming. And that alone should motivate Makerere to put a fully fledged department that is churning out cybersecurity experts. Because the NICE framework by NIST around, the skill set that is needed in cyber puts the roles that need to be filled at 42. And then you find that most of us are actually not cyber. I did engineering, but here I am within the cyberspace. So people have tried to divert into the cyberspace, but it would be good to start churning out people that come from the onset ready to serve within the cyber field. So how you start it is, using the stats that we all have and know in terms of the skill shortage, but also the criticality of the data that Makerere as a university holds, and hence the need for them to protect it as much as possible.
All right. The next one, yeah, that's a request for the presentation. I wonder whether you could avail that presentation.
Yeah, I'll have a chat with Geraldine and see how to share.
Okay. Then the next one by Edward, yeah, about cloud enterprises. How can we manage security resilience based on cloud enterprises that are used today? Mostly when a third-party provider like cloud providers has access to custom systems.
Yeah, it is a tricky but a critical one, because we know the journey we are on is geared towards cloud implementation. One of the key aspects to get that assurance is through asking for certifications, the different certifications such as SOC 2 certifications from those vendors. If they are going to hold, say, card information, are they compliant with PCI DSS, and them demonstrating that they are compliant year on and year in, year out, giving you self-assessments, depending on how you have profiled them and categorized them as a vendor. That informs the level of assurance that you expect from them, either giving you the, reports on the pen test that they have carried out is also critical. But mainly, they need to have those forms of being able to give you assurance through being certified with the different, compliant with different standards, and also providing you different reports on how they have checked themselves on that aspect.
Okay, thank you for that, Diana. The next one, cyber accidents. Oh, I think there's one before that. Okay, the next one is from Martin. Cyber accidents that happen most of the time are due to human behavior in the organization. How can companies mainstream cyber readiness to prevent cyber attacks? Just a quick look at our clock. I see we have about 9 minutes. So let's over to you, then.
That one, the quick answer is really cyber awareness. Your staff have to be aware of the implications of their actions, and that will cause them to first stop and think before they do any activity, and not making cyber awareness more of a mandatory, tick a box exercise, but making it part of their journey. Wherever they turn, they should see cybersecurity, and that will build that consciousness to help them, be conscious when they are dealing with any activity that is entrusted to them.
Okay, the next two on cyber insurance from Ahmad. What's the role of cyber insurance? What does it cover?
So I'll relate cyber insurance to, say, a car insurance. When you have your car and you you live in Uganda and you know that when you park it at Lugogo, someone will come and take it away, or borders are going to scratch you. Then you're like, you know what, I need comprehensive insurance. And what insurance helps you to do is even recover fast. If you had an incident today, you will not have 20 million to return that car immediately. But your 1 million that you paid for insurance should be able to give you a car in a shorter period of time. So that's the role of insurance. Even when it comes to cyber insurance, for example, you have insurance against ransomware that is now, countered with data exfiltration. You'll have regulatory fines that you have to pay. So cyber insurance helps you to minimize the impact by giving you part of that cash back that will reduce the burden of the impact at the end of the day.
Okay. The next one from Ian. Are there any arrangements for cybersecurity classes from NITA? That one, the quick answer is yes, and those will be publicized in the various forums. The next one is from Albert. Most of us have interests in cybersecurity, done trainings. How best can we be onboarded? I guess this one goes to the banking sector as well. How can we guide the young people on how to skill themselves and possibly how to position themselves for the jobs that are available? Over to you, Dan.
I see he's on the right path with the different platforms where either they offer free courses or where you have to pay for the courses. So how do you continuously equip yourself? One of the things I tell people that are coming up is that the number one tool that you need is a lab where to practice, because the challenge has been, where do we practice? But also the other thing that I'm seeing that is common, everyone thinks that cybersecurity is ethical hacking. I don't know if that is the very interesting thing around security, but I will encourage us to go to the nice NIST framework and look at the different roles, and then you'll get guidance on, okay, if I want to be a security awareness specialist, what kind of skill set do I need to build? And how do I start, positioning myself? You can be a social media cyber awareness fanatic, where every day you're sharing a tip on cybersecurity. And before you know it, you create your own presence and your own brand that can help you create your own, your own job as a cybersecurity expert. So much as there's shortage in skill set, many organizations have also not embraced cybersecurity. So sometimes when people say there's shortage, I'm like, not in Uganda, maybe out there. So find creative ways to start exposing yourself and what you're passionate about, and that should guide you in building that career. But Anita, I think can also help. I think there was a component of, I don't know if you have spaces to employ people for the different roles.
Yeah, I think that goes to all organizations, and basically the young people need to skill themselves, obtain multiple skills such that they can fit in the various organizations. Geraldine, do you have any comments for us as we head towards a close? Of course, some of the updates at the national level, of course, we had the National Cybersecurity Strategy passed by the Minister of ICT recently. And at the international level, we're also moving to adopt some of the international cybersecurity conventions. There's the Budapest Convention, as well as the AU Convention. We're all aware that cybersecurity does not know borders. Cybercrime does not know borders, and therefore it's important that we participate at the international level if as a country we are to curb cybercrime. With that, Geraldine, you have a word for us as we head towards a close of this meeting.
Yes, I was requesting maybe to have a small closure from both of you, like a wrap up, then I'll close off the webinar.
Okay, so
yeah, last remarks.
Last remarks. All right, so back to Dana with your last remarks, please.
All right, my last remarks is that, you know, cyber resilience can be a huge animal to tackle, but start with the basics and then build onto that. From the analogy of the Lego, you don't just get 10 components and you try to put them together in one go and you think you'll be able to reproduce the bigger picture that you want. So start with the basics, but having the big picture in mind. Have an agile approach, be adaptable, because with cybersecurity, you don't have a stringent and strict strategy to follow. As the environment and the landscape evolve, be ready to evolve with it. And above all, put stakeholder engagement and building that trust at the forefront, because when you have that sorted, the journey becomes quite smoother. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dana. Now, a quick one from me. Of course, I've given a few updates on what we're doing as a country, knowing that cybercrime is borderless. We are engaging across borders, the Budapest Convention, the AU Convention. But in addition, as a country, we are looking at development of cyber skills. Earlier, the issue of jobs was mentioned. One of the areas we are looking at and that is being fast-tracked is the area of business process outsourcing. We're looking at obtaining jobs here, but working for companies abroad. And that is has been fast-tracked. There's a task force on that. And soon we're going to have cooperation engagements with a few countries such that our people can work from here as well as and earn from abroad. So with that, I would like to thank the team that has organized this event. I would like to thank our ministers, our peers for ICT, for having created this environment where we can participate in such a forum. And I would like to hand back the mic back to Geraldine, who has organized this event. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. On behalf of NITAU and the National Cert and Coordination Center, I just want to say thank you so much to Michael for moderating this session. And Diana, thank you so much for your insightful and informative presentation, as well as the responses to the questions raised by the participants. And to the participants, thank you for attending this webinar. And I believe we have achieved having this session within 1 hour. It has clocked 3 p.m. I just want to say thank you all, and we look forward to your participation in the next webinar, which will happen next Thursday at 2 p.m. and it will focus on the principles of zero trust architecture. Thank you again and have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.